Welcome to the Schoolhouse Museum. The room that we're standing in is the 1932 addition to the 1924 Christian Home School. This room was added on in 1932. The ceiling, the majority of it, is the original ceiling from when this room was built in 1932. Now, unfortunately, we were not able to save the first room of the Christian Home School, which was built in 1924, but they were able to get some of the ceiling out of there and put it up in here. And so a part of the ceiling is also from the first room of the Christian Home School built in 1924. All of these schoolhouses were built pretty much along the same design. Some were one room, some were two room, and some were three room schoolhouses. Of course, at that time, there was no electricity, so they always put these windows that are very long on the east side of the building, so as the sun rose, more light would come into the schoolhouse. In a one-room schoolhouse this size, you could have from grades 1 through grade 7 in one room with one teacher. And for the most part, that's the way it was done. The way these schoolhouses were built, that was because of two gentlemen along with the citizens, and they were Mr. Julius Rosenwald, the president of Sears Roebuck and Company, and also Mr. Booker T. Washington, the founder of Tuskegee Institute. These two gentlemen met at an event in Chicago, Illinois around 1912. And they came up with a plan, and the plan was to have the neighborhoods raise money. And whatever amount of money the neighborhoods raised, then Mr. Rosenwald would donate that same amount of money. So that's how these schoolhouses for African Americans were built, because of their plan. Over 5,000 schoolhouses across the South were built with that money. Mr. Rosenwald himself ended up donating a little more than $4.3 million total. The communities across the South ended up raising a little more than $4.7 million total. This schoolhouse was built right here in Wight County in an area near Chuckatuck, Virginia. That's where it was originally built. This room was moved from the original site to here in February of 2005. And we opened the Schoolhouse Museum in 2007. You can see that we have the classroom. These are some of the actual student desks that were used in the schoolhouses. The figure of the teacher, this is a figure of Mrs. Ruby Warren Thompson. Mrs. Thompson was a very dedicated member of our board of directors for the Schoolhouse Museum. So we had a figure of her made as the teacher. This is the schedule that a teacher in a one-room schoolhouse would use. Because when you had a one-room schoolhouse, you had grades 1 through grade 7 in one room with one teacher. School would begin at 9 o'clock in the morning. Devotions every morning. They would sing a song, the Lord's Prayer, and the Pledge to the Flag. Then the teacher would ask each student to stand and recite a Bible verse. Then they would have roll call. Then, according to the schedule, at 9:15 in the morning, they would begin with reading language. But the teacher would begin with those students who were in grade 5, 6, and 7 first. Once she taught those students the lesson, then that's when she would move on to those students in grades 1 through 4. And then the older children would step in and help the younger children, which also helped the teacher. And that's the way they worked it for each subject throughout the day. Lunch, of course, was at 12 o'clock. In some cases, and this was not often, those students who may not have had any lunch, especially on those cold days, when they would run the hot potbelly stove, you see a small pot on top of the potbelly stove. The teacher would bring in ingredients, all the ingredients she would need to make a soup. She would put her ingredients in the pot, get some water, and put that in the pot. So as she's teaching the morning lesson, the soup is cooking. So by the time lunchtime started, she could share with those children who didn't have anything. Some of these children had to walk anywhere from 4 to 5 miles to school every day and back home every day. They were willing to make those kinds of sacrifices because that's how important it was to them to get an education. They wanted to make their lives better, and they knew that learning how to read, write, and do arithmetic were very important, that they needed those things. So they made those sacrifices. We want to invite you to come to the Schoolhouse Museum. Take a look and see what we have here. Listen to the history. And I really want to encourage the young people to come in, because it would also make you appreciate what you have. We're located right here on Main Street. Take time, come out to the Schoolhouse Museum. Learn a few lessons. I think you'll appreciate it.